You wake up to silence, not the silence of sleep, not the peaceful quiet of a tranquil dawn. This is a silence that screams, a silence that shouldn't exist in the mind of a space marine of the Adeptus Astartes. Your name is Brother Tertius. At least that's what the name scroll on your right pauldron says. You are, or were, a tactical marine of the Crimson Castellans chapter, 3rd Company, Squad Exemplar. 217 years of service to the God Emperor of mankind. 83 major campaigns, countless minor actions, 17 commendations for valor. Your record is exemplary, your gene seed is pure, your faith was. Let me take you back to the moment it happened, the moment you happened. You're boarding a chaos-corrupted vessel, a writhing monument to blasphemy that was once an imperial cruiser called the Righteous Fury. Ironic, isn't it? Now it's the wretched ecstasy, and every bulkhead weeps with corruption. Your squad advances through corridors that seem to breathe, past flesh walls that pulse with obscene life. The air inside your helmet is recycled, purified, but you can still taste the corruption. Or at least, you could. The word bearers are waiting for you in what used to be the ship's chapel. Of course they are. Where else would the Dark Apostle make his stand? Where else would he perform his final ritual? The firefight is brief, brutally brief. Your squad executes with the precision of 2 centuries worth of combat doctrine. Bolt rounds hammer into power armor. Ceramic cracks, bodies fall. You put 3 rounds into a word-bearer's chest plate, watch him stagger, plant a 4th through his helm's eye lens. Clean kill, textbook engagement. But the sorcerer, the Dark Apostle in his twisted robes, he was never trying to win the firefight. He was buying time. You see him too late. See the ritual circle drawn in blood and worse things. See the warp light gathering around his outstretched hands. See the chalice thrown, that chalice, wrought from bone and inscribed with script that hurts to look at. Your training kicks in immediately. You raise your bolter. Your finger finds the trigger, but Brother Sergeant Cato is faster. His plasma pistol incinerates the Dark Apostle mid-incantation, turns him into superheated ash and screaming steam. For a moment you think you've won, for a moment. Then the chalice drinks. You don't see it happen, not with your eyes, but you feel it. 5 space marines standing in that chapel, 5 warriors of the Emperor, 5 souls burning bright in the warp like stars in the darkness. The chalice opens like a mouth, like a wound, like a hunger that has no end, and it pulls. You've been wounded before, shot, burned, cut, crushed. You felt bones break and organs rupture. You've experienced pain that would kill a baseline human from shock alone. But this is different. This isn't pain. Pain at least confirms you're alive. This is absence. This is subtraction. This is something fundamental being removed from the core of your being. Imagine someone reaching inside your chest and pulling out your heart. But your heart keeps beating in their hand and your chest keeps pumping blood and you keep standing there watching it happen. Now imagine that heart is your soul. That's what it feels like when the chalice drinks you. The word bearer's trap wasn't meant to kill you. It was meant to do something so much worse. When you come back to yourself, can you even call it yourself anymore? The firefight is over. Your brothers are securing the chapel. Brother Apothecary Marcus is checking vitals, moving from warrior to warrior with practiced efficiency. The Dark Apostle is a scorch mark on the deck plating. The chalice is gone, claimed by the warp, you suppose, dragging 5 stolen souls down into the Immaterium's endless hunger. Your vitals are normal, elevated heart rate which is expected, minor armor damage to your left pauldron. Everything is fine, except for the silence. You've been a space marine for over 2 centuries. For all that time, every day, every hour, every second, you've felt the presence of your brothers. Not heard them, not seen them, felt them. The choir, your chapter's chaplains call it. That subtle psychic resonance that links battle brothers together. The warm hum of brotherhood that means you're never truly alone. It's always been there, as constant as your heartbeat, as natural as breathing. It's gone now. You reach for it the way you might reach for a limb that's been amputated. The phantom sensation is there, the memory of where it should be. But when you grasp for it, there's only void, only absence, only that screaming, endless silence where the choir used to sing. And there's something else missing too, something even more fundamental, the Emperor's light. Every space marine knows his light, feels it. It's not metaphor, it's not symbolism. It's not the wishful thinking of baseline humans desperate for meaning in an uncaring universe. It's real. The God Emperor of mankind, enthroned on Terra, his psychic presence radiating across the galaxy like the warmth of a distant star. You felt it every day of your service, in morning prayers, in combat, in the quiet moments between battles when you clean your bolter and recite the litanies of maintenance. It's always been there, a warmth in the warp, a certainty in your soul, the knowledge that you serve something greater than yourself. It's gone now. You look down at your chest plate. The aquila is still there, the Emperor's symbol, the twin-headed eagle etched and embossed and painted in gold leaf. It's beautiful, it's sacred, it's just metal now. Brother Tertius, report. That's Brother Sergeant Cato on the Vox. His voice is tinny, compressed by the communication system. Words, just words, no warmth. No connection. You used to be able to hear the concern in his voice, the brotherhood, the shared purpose. Now it's just acoustic waves translated into electrical signals and back again. Operational, Sergeant, you hear yourself say. Your voice sounds wrong to you, flat, mechanical. But apparently it's convincing enough because Cato moves on to the next squad member. You're still standing, still fighting. Your body works perfectly. The genetic enhancements that make you transhuman, the extra heart, the multilung, the osmodula that turned your bones to ceramite hard armor, all 19 implanted organs functioning exactly as designed. Your armor's machine spirit hums with loyal service. Your bolter is loaded, the magazine clinking satisfactorily as you check it. Everything works. But you're watching yourself do it, like viewing security footage of a stranger. Your hands, are they your hands? They move with textbook precision, muscle memory, 2 centuries of training. The meat knows what to do even when the pilot is gone. A heretic stumbles out from behind a collapsed pillar, wounded, desperate, probably trying to reach an escape pod. Your training identifies the threat in microseconds. Your enhanced reflexes snap your bolter up. Your targeting reticle finds his center mass. You pull the trigger 3 times, bark, bark, bark. The bolter's sacred fury tears him apart. Clean kill, efficient, professional, you feel nothing. And that's when the true horror settles in. Not the horror of what happened, but the horror of what you've become. Because you just killed a man, granted, a heretic, a traitor, a thing that deserved death, but you killed a living being and you felt nothing. No righteous fury, no satisfaction of justice served, no grim duty fulfilled, nothing. It was just a function, like loading a magazine, like sealing a helmet, like breathing. You dispatch 2 more heretics as your squad secures the deck. Each kill is textbook, each one means nothing. The other members of Squad Exemplar are roaring battle cries, shouting the chapter's litanies of hate. Their voices ring with fury and faith. You hear yourself joining in. The words come automatically. In his name we strike, for the Emperor and the Crimson Castellans. The correct phonemes at the correct volume, perfect reproduction, empty sounds. Brother Cato clasps your shoulder as you exit the corrupted vessel. Well fought, Tertius, the Emperor protects. You see his eyes through his helm's optics. There's satisfaction there, pride, the warm glow of victory in his name. You wonder what he sees when he looks at your eyes. Do they look different? Can he see the hollowness inside you? Can he sense that where there used to be a brother, there's now just meat in armor? The Emperor protects, you repeat. It's what you're supposed to say. The response is automatic. But as the words leave your mouth, you realize with creeping horror that you don't know what they mean anymore. Not really. Not in your soul, because you don't have a soul anymore. The mission is successful. The wretched ecstasy is purged with melta charges and cyclonic torpedoes. The chaos infection is cleansed with holy fire. Squad Exemplar returns to the chapter's strike cruiser with commendations. The chaplain speaks of the Emperor's favor. The apothecary checks your wounds, none serious, and pronounces you fit for duty. No one notices. No one sees. How could they? You're still performing flawlessly. Still the same Brother Tertius who served with distinction for over 2 centuries. Same armor, same weapons, same gene seed. Everything that makes you a space marine is intact. except the one thing that made any of it matter. Later in your personal cell, you remove your helmet and stare at your reflection in the polished ceramic. The face staring back is your face, scarred, augmented, modified by centuries of warfare and enhancement. The same face you've seen for 200 years, but the eyes are different now, not physically. Genetically, they're identical, but there's something missing behind them, some animating principle that used to burn there like a flame. You try to pray. It's what you've done every night before rest cycle for 2 centuries. The prayers come easily. Your memory is enhanced, perfect recall of every litany and catechism. You recite the prayer of protection, the litany of faith. The words flow like water, but they're just words, just sounds, just vibrations in air. There's no one listening, or if there is, you can't feel them anymore. You're shouting into a void and hearing nothing back but your own echo. That's when the questions begin. The questions that will haunt you through every moment of your continued existence. Questions that have no good answers. Questions that maybe shouldn't even be asked. What are you now? Are you still a space marine? The Codex Astartes defines a space marine by their enhanced biology, their training, their gene seed, their loyalty to the Emperor. By every objective measure, you still qualify. But if a space marine is the Emperor's angel, his holy warrior, his transhuman instrument of divine will, can you still claim that title without a soul to consecrate? Are you still an angel, or just a very efficient weapon? Can you still serve him? The Imperium's theology is clear. Service to the Emperor is the highest calling. But service implies choice, implies faith, implies belief. You're going to continue fighting because that's what the training demands. That's what the conditioning compels. That's what the meat does. But is that service? Or is that just programming? When a servitor fulfills its function, do we call that service, or just operation? If the Imperium knew, what would they do? You're still effective, potentially more effective now that emotional responses don't cloud your tactical judgment. You're still loyal, or at least still following orders, which amounts to the same thing in practical terms. You're not corrupted. The apothecary would have detected chaos taint. The librarians would have sensed demonic possession. You're not fallen, you're just hollow. But would that distinction matter to the chapter, to the Inquisition? Would they see you as broken equipment to be recycled, or as corrupted flesh to be purged? Neither option ends well for you. And then there's the darkest question. The one that coils in the back of your mind like a serpent made of ice. How many others? You look around the chapel during morning prayers the next day. 300 battle brothers of the Third Company, voices raised in hymns of devotion. Their faith radiates like heat. You can see it in their eyes, hear it in their voices. The Emperor's angels, every one of them, righteous, pure, holy. But how do you know? How many of them might be like you now? Hollow shells going through the motions. You're performing faith flawlessly after all. The mask you wear is perfect. Could Brother Cato be empty inside? Brother Apothecary Marcus? The chaplain himself? How would you even tell? The choir is silent for you, but maybe it's silent for others too, and they're all just pretending, all just performing the rituals of belief without the substance, all just hoping no one else notices they've become something other than what they claim to be. Maybe the chapter is full of hollow angels. Maybe you've just become aware of what you really are, what you've always been. Meat trained to kill, meat programmed to pray, meat that doesn't need meaning to pull a trigger. Maybe the soul was always just an elaborate fiction, a story you told yourself to make the killing bearable. You don't believe that. Not yet. Not quite. Because the absence hurts. Not physical pain. You can't feel emotional pain anymore, not really. But there's a recognition, an acknowledgement of loss. The ghost of where something used to be. If the soul was fiction, why would its absence feel like subtraction? Why would you notice it's gone if it was never there? No, you had a soul, you know you did. You felt the Emperor's light. You heard the choir's song. It was real, and now it's gone. And you're what remains, the most horrifying part. Your body doesn't care. Your enhanced biology continues its transhuman function. Your organs pump, your blood flows, your muscles contract. The machine keeps running even though the operator has left the controls. And in the grim darkness of the far future, maybe that's all anyone really needs from you. Maybe your greatest service to the Emperor isn't your faith. Maybe it never was. Maybe your greatest service is simply continuing to kill his enemies, efficiently and without question, until something finally kills you back. Maybe you've just become the perfect soldier, one who doesn't need a reason to fight, one who doesn't need meaning to kill, one who doesn't need a soul to serve. And the truly terrifying realization, the one that settles into your consciousness like ice water in your veins, is this. You're going to keep fighting anyway, because what else would you do? Where else would you go? You're a space marine. Warfare is your function. The Emperor's enemies are still out there. And even though you can't feel his light anymore, even though the choir is silent, even though the prayers are just empty words, your hands still know how to load a bolter. Your eyes still know how to find a target. Your training still knows how to kill. So you will, not because you believe, not because you have faith, not because you feel the righteous fury of the holy warrior, but because killing is what the meat does. And in the end, in the grim darkness of the far future, maybe that's all you ever were. But to understand the true horror of your condition, we must first understand what you've lost. We must understand what a space marine's soul truly is, and why its absence creates something far worse than death. To understand what you've lost, we need to go back before the silence, back before the void, back to what you were, back to when you were just a boy. His name was Tertius even then, the third son of a manufactorum worker on a hive world whose name doesn't matter anymore. 10 years old, small for his age, quick, smart, angry at the world the way children get angry when they're born into poverty and see no way out. He had a soul back then, small, flickering, fragile, but his, individual, unique in all the galaxy. Human souls are strange things in the Warhammer 40K universe. They're not metaphorical, not symbolic, not the wishful thinking of primitive minds grasping for meaning. Souls are real, tangible, observable. They exist in the immaterium, the warp, as distinct entities of consciousness and will. A human soul is a tiny light in an infinite darkness, vulnerable to predators and parasites, but precious beyond measure. The Emperor knows this. Chaos knows this. The Eldar know this better than most, having birthed a god through the collective corruption of their souls. In the 41st millennium, souls are currency, energy, food for demons, power for psychers, the fundamental essence of what makes you you. Young Tertius had one of those souls, nothing special about it, not particularly bright in the warp, not psychic, just human. But that humanity was valuable. It meant he could dream, could hope, could choose. Could love his mother and hate his father and fear the darkness and wonder what lay beyond the stars. His soul was the seat of his consciousness, the wellspring of his will, the spark that made him alive rather than just a biological machine. Then the chapter came. The Crimson Castellans were recruiting. They do this periodically, descend on worlds within their recruitment sphere searching for candidates. Boys between 10 and 14 years old. The selection criteria are brutal: physical resilience, mental fortitude, genetic compatibility, the willingness to endure suffering. Most aspirants die during the trials. Most of the survivors die during the transformation. But those who make it through, they become legends, they become gods, they become space marines. Tertius survived the trials, barely. He endured the testing. He proved compatible. And then began the transformation that would change not just his body but his soul itself. Because becoming a space marine isn't just physical enhancement, it's spiritual metamorphosis. The process takes years, decades sometimes. 19 organs are implanted into the aspirant's body, each one a genetic miracle created from the gene seed of the chapter's Primarch. The secondary heart, the osmodula that turns bones to ceramite-hard strength, the biscopia that builds transhuman muscle, the hemastamen that supercharges the blood. Each organ is a gift from the Emperor himself, filtered through the genetic template of demigod primarchs who were his finest creations. But here's what they don't tell baseline humans. The transformation isn't just biological. Every organ implanted doesn't just change your body. It changes your soul. Think about it. You're taking genetic material created by the Emperor, a being so psychically powerful that he holds back the tides of the warp through sheer will alone. material crafted from Primarchs who were partially warp entities themselves, beings of such presence that reality itself bent around them. And you're integrating that into your flesh, into your essence. The gene seed doesn't just grow new organs, it rewrites you at the fundamental level. Your soul changes with it. Imagine your consciousness as a candle flame, small, flickering, vulnerable. Now imagine that flame being fed, growing, structured, shaped by forces beyond mortal comprehension. That's what happens to an aspirant's soul during the transformation. It doesn't just remain human, it becomes something more. The hypno-indoctrination plays its part too. Hours upon hours of psychological conditioning, implanting knowledge and doctrine directly into the developing brain. Battle tactics, litanies, prayers, the chapter's history and tradition, but it's more than just programming. The hypno-indoctrination works in tandem with the gene seed, weaving new foundations into your consciousness itself. Your sense of self begins to change. You're no longer just Tertius, third son of a manufactorum worker. You're Brother Tertius, space marine of the Crimson Castellans, inheritor of your Primarch's legacy, servant of the Emperor. Your soul reshapes itself around these new truths: duty, honor, brotherhood, faith. These aren't just concepts you've memorized. They're pillars of your spiritual architecture now, weight-bearing structures that hold up your entire sense of identity. And then there's the choir. Space Marines develop a subtle psychic resonance with their battle brothers. They're not psychers, most of them aren't anyway, but they're not entirely psychically dormant either. The gene seed, the training, the shared experiences, the chapter cult, all of it creates a low-level psychic bond between brothers. The chaplains call it the choir. Some chapters call it the pack sense. The Ultramarines call it the bond of the Primarch. Every chapter has their own name for it, but it's fundamentally the same thing. You can feel your brothers, not their thoughts, not their emotion, just their presence. It's like standing in a room with someone behind you. You can't see them, but you know they're there. You feel the warmth of their body, hear their breathing, sense their movement. The choir is like that, but spiritual. You know when your brothers are near. You feel their determination in battle, their grief when one falls, their fury when facing the Emperor's enemies. It's subtle background radiation of consciousness, but it's constant. From the moment you complete your transformation until the moment you die, you're never truly alone in your own head. For Brother Tertius, the choir first manifested during his final trial. He was bleeding, exhausted, ready to give up. Then he felt it, the presence of the other aspirants around him, not hearing them, not seeing them, feeling them, their determination flowing into him, their strength supporting him. He pushed forward. He survived. And from that moment on, for 200 years, he was part of something greater than himself, part of the choir that sang the silent song of brotherhood. But there's something else, something even more fundamental than the choir, something that makes a Space Marine's soul truly unique among humanity: the Emperor's light. Listen carefully, because this is important. The God Emperor of mankind is not just a symbol. He's not just a rotting corpse on a golden throne, kept alive by machinery and sacrifice. He's one of the most powerful psychic entities in the galaxy. His consciousness extends through the warp itself, a blazing star of willpower and divine fury that holds back the tides of chaos through sheer force of being. The Astronomicon, the psychic lighthouse that guides ships through the warp, is just one manifestation of his power. He is vast, he is infinite, and he is present, and Space Marines can feel him. Not all the time, not directly. They're not saints or living saints with direct communion, but there's a connection, through the gene seed, through their faith, through the Primarchs who were his sons. Space Marines are spiritually tethered to the Emperor in a way that baseline humans aren't. It's not just worship, it's not just belief. It's a genuine psychic link, subtle but undeniable. Brother Tertius felt it every day. In morning prayers, when the chaplain led the chapter in devotions, he could feel the warmth of the Emperor's regard. Not words, not visions, just warmth, presence, like sunlight on your face, like knowing someone you love is in the next room. The certainty that you're serving something greater than yourself and that service is seen and valued. It made everything else bearable: the endless wars, the horrors witnessed, the brothers lost, the suffering endured. All of it had meaning because he could feel in his very soul that it mattered to something beyond himself. And when you put it all together, the gene seed enhancement, the hypno-indoctrination, the choir, the Emperor's light, you get something unique in all the galaxy. A space marine's soul isn't just human anymore. It's transhuman. It burns brighter in the warp than baseline souls. It's structured, organized around purpose and duty in ways that mortal souls aren't. It's not necessarily better than a human soul, though space marines would certainly argue it is. But it's different, shaped, weaponized, sanctified. A space marine's soul is his why. It's what transforms the act of killing from murder into crusading. What elevates violence into holy purpose. What turns the horror of warfare into righteous fury. Without it, all the training remains, all the conditioning, all the enhanced biology, all the combat doctrine, everything that makes you effective stays intact. But the thing that makes you care who you kill, that's gone. Let me paint you a picture of what Brother Tertius was before the silence, before the hollowing, before the word-bearer's ritual stole what made him more than meat. Imagine him on the morning before that fateful boarding action. He wakes from sus and hibernation, the catalepsian node allowing him to function with minimal sleep. His consciousness rises smoothly, no grogginess, no disorientation, just awakening. And the first thing he feels, even before full awareness returns, is the choir. His brothers everywhere in the fortress monastery and aboard the strike cruiser. Hundreds of presences, familiar and comforting. He's not alone. He'll never be alone. He stands, performs his morning ablutions, checks his war gear with ritualized precision. And then he prays, not out of obligation, not out of rote memorization, but because he wants to. Because the act of prayer connects him to something vast and eternal. Because when he speaks the litany of beginning, he can feel, actually feel, the Emperor's presence like distant sunlight warming his soul. Grant me the strength to face the horrors of this dark millennium, he prays, and he means every word. Guide my hand in righteous fury. Let my aim be true and my faith unshakable. And he feels the response, not words, just acknowledgement, warmth. The sensation of being heard by something impossibly vast and benevolent. It fills him with purpose, with certainty, with the knowledge that whatever horrors he faces today, he faces them in service to something worthy. He joins his squad for morning prayer in the chapel. Brother Cato leads the litanies. The voices of Squad Exemplar rise in unison, and Brother Tertius feels their spirits intertwining with his own. He knows these men. Has fought beside them for decades. They're more than comrades. They're brothers in the truest sense, connected soul to soul through the choir. When Brother Marcus speaks the prayer of protection, Tertius feels the faith behind it. When Sergeant Cato invokes the Emperor's fury against their enemies, Tertius feels that fury kindle in his own heart. This is what it means to be a space marine. This connection, this purpose, this meaning. Later, when they deploy against the wretched ecstasy, Tertius fights with the fury of the righteous. Every trigger pull is a prayer. Every kill is a sacrament. Every heretic struck down is an offering laid at the Emperor's feet. He roars battle cries because the fury demands to be voiced. He feels satisfaction when his bolter tears apart the servants of chaos because their deaths matter. They're not just tactical objectives to be neutralized. They're blasphemies to be erased, affronts to everything he holds sacred. And when the fighting is fierce and the situation desperate, when the word-bearers press them hard and ammunition runs low, he reaches deep into his soul and finds strength there. Not just physical strength, his body has that in abundance, but spiritual strength. The certainty that he's exactly where he needs to be, doing exactly what he was created to do, and that even if he dies here, his soul will return to the Emperor's side and his service will be remembered forever. That's what a space marine's soul is. That's what it does. It's the animating principle that makes 200 pounds of augmented muscle and ceramite armor into something more than just a weapon. It transforms soldiers into holy warriors, killers into crusaders, men into angels. And now imagine all of that, every bit of that certainty, that purpose, that connection, that meaning. Imagine it ripped away in an instant. Imagine the warmth replaced by void, the choir replaced by silence, the certainty replaced by emptiness. Every spiritual structure that held up your identity torn down in a single psychic scream. Your soul devoured by a hungry chalice dragged into the warp to feed something blasphemous. And you're left standing there, still alive, still operational, still capable of every single physical function you had before, but the why is gone. The fire that made the engine meaningful has been extinguished. You're just meat now, augmented meat, highly trained meat, extremely dangerous meat, but meat nonetheless. Your body doesn't know the difference. Your brain keeps processing. Your heart keeps beating. Your hands keep pulling triggers. The programming runs deep enough that you can perform faith without feeling it, simulate belief without possessing it, act the part of a holy warrior while knowing with terrible clarity that you're just a biological mechanism executing combat protocols. That's the true horror of what happened to Brother Tertius in that corrupted chapel. The word-bearer's ritual didn't kill him, didn't corrupt him, didn't possess him. It did something far worse. It subtracted him from himself, left a perfectly functional shell where a person used to be, created a space marine with every capability intact but no soul to give those capabilities meaning. And the terrifying question that Brother Tertius now faces, that we'll explore in the sections ahead, is this. Does it matter if you can still fight, still kill, still serve the Imperium's needs, still perform every function expected of a space marine? Does it matter that you don't feel anything anymore? Does it matter that the prayers are empty and the purpose is gone and the faith is just sophisticated play acting? To you it matters. You notice the absence. You feel the wrongness of your condition, but to everyone else, to the Imperium, to the chapter, do they care about your internal experience or just your external performance? Are you still the Emperor's angel, or have you become his most efficient tool? Now you understand what you were. Now you can truly comprehend what you've become. Because there are forces in this galaxy that don't simply kill space marines, they do something far worse. They hollow them out and leave them walking. You know what you've lost now. You understand the architecture of the soul that was torn from you. But understanding doesn't change your situation, doesn't restore what's gone, doesn't make the silence any less deafening. And you're not alone. You're not the first. You won't be the last. Because in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there are forces that specialize in this particular horror. Entities and individuals who have discovered that a space marine soul is valuable precisely because it burns so bright. And they have methods, terrible, efficient methods, for extracting that value. Let me show you how angels are hollowed. There are things living in the immaterium that humans aren't meant to comprehend. Ancient, hungry, utterly alien in their motivations and methods. They don't hate you. They don't want to corrupt you. You're not their enemy. You're their food. The enslavers are among the oldest of these predators. They existed before humanity crawled out of Terra's oceans. They'll exist long after the last human empire has crumbled to dust. They're parasites of consciousness, entities that infest sapient minds the way parasitic wasps infest caterpillars. And when they're done with you, there's nothing left but the husk. Imagine your brother Sergeant Valen of the Nova Marines chapter, leading a boarding action against a space Hulk that drifted out of the warp. The Hulk is old. So old that the ship names have been worn away by time and corruption. Your kill team advances through corridors that haven't seen human presence in 10,000 years. Your Auspex is screaming warnings, warp signatures, multiple contacts, threat level extreme. Then you see them, floating through the bulkheads like they're not even there. Biomechanical horrors with too many eyes and geometries that hurt to perceive. Enslavers. Your training kicks in immediately. These things are dangerous, they're possessors there. One of them looks at you, that's all it takes. Not touching, not attacking, just perceiving you. And you feel it push into your mind like a knife sliding between ribs, not painful. That would almost be better. It's invasive, violating. You feel your consciousness being displaced, pushed aside like someone shoving you out of a chair you've been sitting in your entire life. For a moment, maybe seconds, maybe hours, time becomes meaningless. You're a passenger in your own body. You watch your hands move without commanding them. Hear your voice speak words you didn't choose. Feel your legs carrying you forward while something else drives. The enslaver is wearing you like a suit, using your enhanced body, your weapons, your armor. You're still conscious, cruelly, mercilessly conscious, but you have no control. You're trapped inside yourself, screaming silently while something other puppets your flesh. Your battle brothers see the change immediately, see the wrongness in your movements. Brother Apothecary Titus raises his bolt pistol, and you want to scream at him, yes, do it, kill me, end this. But your mouth isn't yours to command anymore. The firefight is brutal. Your brothers don't want to kill you. They're trying to disable, to capture, to somehow save you from the thing wearing your body. But enslavers don't release their hosts willingly. The only way to free you is to kill the parasite. And when Brother Titus finally lands the killing shot, plasma through the creature's core as it extends partially beyond your armor, you feel it die. And it takes your soul with it. It's not deliberate cruelty. The enslaver doesn't hate you, doesn't want to hurt you. But when it inhabited your mind, it wrapped itself around your consciousness, intertwined with your soul like roots through soil. And when it dies, it tears everything out, like ripping a tree from the ground and taking half the earth with it. You wake up on the deck plating. Your brothers are calling your name. Brother Apothecary Titus is running scans, checking vitals, looking relieved that you're alive. And you are alive. Your hearts are beating. Your blood is oxygenating. Your organs are functional. But when you reach for the choir, when you reach for that warm presence of your brother's souls, there's nothing there. Just silence, just void, just the terrible recognition that you survived the possession, but you didn't survive it intact. The enslaver took something with it when it died, something you're never getting back. Or perhaps your brother Kalen of the Raven Guard, hunting gene-stealer cults in the underhive of a death world. The mission is supposed to be routine for a space marine anyway. Purge the Xeno's taint, cleanse the corruption, burn out the infection before it spreads. But gene-stealer cults don't just breed in the dark places. They attract things, warp things. And some of those things have learned that where there are gene-stealers, there are often space marines. And where there are space marines, there are souls worth taking. You're clearing a nest when you hear the sound. Not with your ears, with something deeper, a buzzing that resonates in your bones, in your brain, in places you didn't know could register sound. Your training identifies it immediately, and ice floods your veins. Cycnuine, the warp wasps, the nightmare insects that lay their eggs in souls, they phase through the walls like ghosts, creatures of the immaterium made partially manifest in real space, chitinous bodies the size of combat knives, stingers that glow with psychic venom, wings that beat at frequencies that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. And they're fast, faster than your enhanced reflexes can track. Your brothers open fire immediately. Bolter shells tear through the swarm, but these things are as much warp entity as physical creature. Half the rounds pass through them like they're shooting shadows. The Cycnuines swarm around you, darting and weaving, looking for openings in your armor, looking for access. One of them finds it, phases through the joint seal at your neck. For an instant you feel its physical presence, alien chitin against your skin. Then it stings, not your flesh, your soul. Imagine a wasp sting in your arm. Now imagine that wasp has stung something that doesn't have nerve endings, something that exists in a dimension perpendicular to normal reality. That's what it feels like when a Cycnuine stinger pierces your soul. You feel it in the same way you feel a memory, not physically but mentally. A wound in consciousness itself, and then it lays its egg. You kill the Cycnuine, crush it against your gorget, but the damage is done. Somewhere in the immaterium, somewhere in the space where your soul exists, there's now a psychic larvae, feeding, growing, gestating, devouring your spiritual essence from the inside out. The apothecary can't detect it. Auspex can't scan it. It's not a physical parasite, it's metaphysical, spiritual. And it's eating you in a dimension that flesh and blood can't access. It takes 3 days. 3 days of feeling something fundamentally wrong inside you. The choir starts fading first, your brother's presences becoming distant, muffled, like hearing voices through thick walls. Then the Emperor's light begins to dim. That warm certainty eroding day by day, hour by hour. You try to pray and feel the connection weakening, like a Vox signal breaking up, like a candle flame starving for oxygen. By the third day, the larvae has consumed everything that made you on a spiritual level. It's eaten your soul the way normal parasites eat tissue. And when it finally dies, because psychnuine larvae can't survive long without their mother's psychic nourishment, there's nothing left to restore. The egg hatches into empty air, or maybe it never hatches at all. You don't know. You can't perceive the warp anymore, can't sense what happens in that other dimension where your soul used to burn. All you know is the silence, the void, the recognition that something has been digested out of you. Brother Apothecary Marius examines you when you return from the mission, runs every scan the chapter possesses. Gene seed, pure. Organs, functional. Psychological evaluation, you pass every test. You're cleared for duty, pronounced fit to fight, but you know the truth. You're not whole anymore. You're not the brother who went into that underhive. You're what the psychnuine left behind after it finished feeding. But the warp predators are mindless, instinctual. They consume souls because that's what they do, the way sharks eat fish or fires consume oxygen. There's no malice in it, no deliberate cruelty. They're just acting according to their nature. Chaos sorcerers, though, they understand what they're doing. They know exactly how valuable a space marine soul is. They know what it costs you when it's taken. And they take it anyway, not for food, but for power. Let me tell you about Squad Exemples. 5 brothers of the Salamanders chapter, decorated veterans with 2 centuries of service each. They were hunting a word-bearer cult on a shrine world when they found themselves facing the dark apostle Carvalin, a sorcerer who'd spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of soul theft. The battle was going well at first. Squad Exemples had the tactical advantage, superior positioning, surprise, overwhelming firepower. They destroyed 3/4 of the cultist force before Carvalin even revealed himself. Brother Sergeant Asher put 2 bolt rounds through the Dark Apostle's center mass before the sorcerer even finished his entrance monologue. But Carvalin wasn't there to win the firefight. He was there to complete a ritual, and they'd already given him everything he needed. You see, chaos sorcery operates on principles that baseline physics can't explain. It trades in symbols and significance, in blood and belief, and the blood of 5 veteran space marines spilled on sacred ground during the fighting. That had power, that had meaning, enough meaning to fuel what came next. The Dark Apostle rose from his death wounds, impossibly alive, and raised the chalice of unmarting souls, a relic forged in the eye of terror from the bones of saints and inscribed with names that hurt to read. He spoke 7 words in a language that predated human civilization. 7 words that resonated in the warp like hammer strikes on a cosmic gong, and the chalice drank. Brother Sergeant Asher felt it first, the pulling sensation, like gravity suddenly reversed, centered on that blasphemous cup. He tried to move, tried to raise his weapon, but his body had become heavy, sluggish. Not physically, his enhanced muscles still had all their transhuman strength, but spiritually, like wading through mud that existed in a dimension adjacent to normal space. Then the pain started, except it wasn't pain in any conventional sense. It was absence, subtraction, the feeling of something essential being removed from the core of your being. Imagine someone reaching into your chest and pulling out your heart, except it's not your physical heart, it's the metaphysical center of your consciousness, the part of you that experiences meaning and purpose and connection. All 5 brothers of Squad Exemples watched, helpless, as their own souls were torn from their bodies. They could see them, or see something anyway. Streamers of light pulled from their armor, flowing through the air like luminous smoke, spiraling into the chalice's infinite depth. The souls screamed as they went, not with voices, with something deeper than voices, with the sound of identity itself being unmade. The ritual lasted 7 seconds. When it was done, Carvalin collapsed dead, truly dead this time. The chalice shattered. The souls were gone, pulled into the warp to fuel whatever dark purpose the word-bearer had planned. Maybe they empowered a demon summoning. Maybe they were fed to a warp entity. Maybe they were simply unmade, erased from existence to power a single moment of dark miracle. It doesn't matter. They're gone, irretrievable, destroyed. Squad Exempli stands in the aftermath, surrounded by cultist corpses, victorious by every tactical measure. They've completed their mission, eliminated the threat, survived the encounter. But when they check their Vox channels, when they try to feel the choir connecting them to their brothers, there's only silence. They look at each other. 5 Space Marines in Mark VII power armor, chapter symbols proudly displayed, weapons still smoking from righteous fury. They should feel triumphant. They should feel the satisfaction of duty fulfilled. They should feel something. They feel nothing. Brother Sergeant Asher tries to pray. The words come automatically. 200 years of repetition have burned the litanies into his brain deeper than any hypno-indoctrination. Emperor, grant me the strength to face this dark millennium. Guide my hand in righteous fury. Let my aim be true and my faith unshakable. Empty words, just phonemes, just sounds produced by vocal cords striking air. There's no one listening, or if there is, he can't feel them anymore, can't sense the Emperor's presence, can't feel that warmth that used to suffuse every prayer. It's like praying to a wall, talking to yourself in an empty room. When the Salamander's recovery team arrives, they find Squad Exempli standing in perfect formation, weapons ready, perimeter secured, exemplary tactical discipline. The mission is a success. The Dark Apostle is dead. The cult is eradicated. The shrine world is saved. No one notices that 5 of the Emperor's angels no longer have souls. How could they? The bodies still function. The armor still gleams. The weapons still fire. By every measurable standard, Squad Exemplis is ready for deployment, fit for duty, operational. Only the brothers themselves know what they've lost. Only they feel the silence where the choir used to sing. Only they understand that they're not warriors anymore, just biological mechanisms in ceramic shells, performing the functions they were programmed to perform, continuing to kill because killing is what the meat does. This is what chaos sorcery can do. Not just kill you, not just corrupt you, but hollow you. Leave you walking and talking and fighting while knowing with terrible clarity that everything that made you a person, everything that made your existence meaningful, has been ripped out and fed to the hungry gods. And the most horrifying part, chaos doesn't even consider this a major working. Car Valen wasn't an especially powerful sorcerer. The Chalice of Unmarting Souls wasn't a unique artifact. There are thousands like it in the Eye of Terror. Soul theft rituals are practically common among the Dark Apostles and Sorcerer Lords. This happens regularly. Across the galaxy, in countless battles, Space Marines are being hollowed out, their souls stolen, their essence consumed. And because the bodies keep fighting, because the armor keeps functioning, because the tactical performance doesn't noticeably decline, no one realizes that the Emperor's angels are slowly being replaced by empty shells wearing the masks of faith. But chaos doesn't have a monopoly on soul theft. The Dark Mechanicum, those tech priests who turned from the Omnissiah's light and embraced the dark truths of the warp, they've developed their own methods, colder methods, more efficient methods. Methods that don't rely on sorcery and belief, but on engineering. Imagine your brother Korvax of the Iron Hands chapter, infiltrating a Dark Mechanicum forge world to destroy a Hirdeck weapons facility. Your chapter has a complicated relationship with the Mechanicum. The Iron Hands venerate technology, modify their flesh extensively, sometimes blur the line between transhuman and machine themselves. But the Dark Mechanicum has crossed lines even the Iron Hands won't approach. They've merged technology with warpcraft in ways that violate the sacred principles of the machine god. You're deep in the facility when you find the soul engines. Massive chambers filled with machinery that shouldn't exist, devices that interface the material and immaterial, that treat souls as just another form of energy to be harvested and utilized. And at the center of each engine, suspended in crystalline matrices, you see them, the souls of captured Imperial soldiers, guardsmen, tech priests. And yes, Space Marines, they're still conscious, still aware. You can see them burning in the machinery, their spiritual essence channeled into conduits and capacitors, their consciousness used as processing power for profane calculations. They've been reduced to components, to fuel. Their souls burned like promethium in an engine, powering the very weapons that will kill their brothers. The technical precision of it is almost more horrifying than the chaos rituals. The word-bearers steal souls in acts of dark worship, chanting blasphemies and making sacrifices. There's passion in that. Belief. However twisted, it acknowledges that souls matter, that they're sacred enough to be profaned. The dark mechanicum just plugs them into machines, treats them as another resource to be exploited. No reverence, no ritual, just cold, efficient extraction and utilization. Souls as batteries, consciousness as compatronium, the spiritual reduced to the merely technical. Brother Korvax destroys the soul engines, sets melta charges, reduces the facility to molten slag. He tells himself he's freed those trapped souls, released them to the Emperor's side. But the truth, which he won't admit even to himself, is that he doesn't know if destroying the engines freed the souls or simply erased them. Deleted them like corrupted data files. And here's the part that will haunt him forever. During the infiltration, while observing the soul engine's operation, he felt something. A pulling sensation. Like standing too close to a fire and feeling the heat draw moisture from your skin. The engines were harvesting ambient spiritual energy, drinking in the presence of nearby souls to feed their eternal hunger. He felt his own soul being pulled toward them, felt himself becoming lighter, thinner, less present in the warp. He retreated immediately, but the sensation persisted for days afterward. That feeling of having been partially drained, of having lost something so small you might not even notice it consciously, but that creates a growing sense of wrongness, of absence. Did the soul engines take something from him? Did they sip from his spiritual essence the way a vampire might take a non-fatal amount of blood? Is he still complete? Or has he been diminished in some fundamental way that he won't even recognize until it's too late? He doesn't know, can't know. And that uncertainty, that creeping dread, might be worse than knowing for certain that he's been hollowed. And then there are the pariahs, the blanks, the soulless ones, the untouchables. They're not predators. They don't deliberately steal souls. They don't even want to hurt you. They're just empty, voids in the warp, spaces where souls should be but aren't. And if you stand too close to that void for too long, it can erase you. Most space marines never encounter a true pariah. They're rare, 1 in billions, maybe trillions, but they exist, and some have been weaponized. The Imperium's Culexus assassins, certain inquisitorial agents, and in the dark corners of the galaxy, there are chaos cults that have learned to cultivate blanks as anti-psyker weapons. Imagine your brother librarian Telos, a psyker of the Blood Ravens chapter, pursuing a renegade inquisitor who's fallen to heresy. You corner him in a warehouse district, surrounded by your kill team bolt pistol aimed at his head. You're ready for resistance, ready for sorcery, ready for summoned demons. You're not ready for what steps out of the shadows behind him. The pariah doesn't look wrong. She's just a woman, unremarkable features, nondescript clothing. But the moment she enters your sensory range, you feel it, wrongness on a level that bypasses rational thought and strikes directly at your instincts. Your extra senses, the ones that perceive the warp, suddenly register nothing. Not empty space, not silence, nothing. A void that shouldn't exist. A hole in reality that screams with absence. For a baseline human, proximity to a pariah is deeply uncomfortable, nauseating, wrong on a subconscious level. They won't know why, but every instinct will tell them to get away. For a psyker, it's agony, like someone pressing white-hot coals directly against your brain. Librarian Telos staggers. His psychic powers, abilities he's trained decades to master, simply vanish. The warp doesn't respond to his call, might as well be trying to breathe vacuum. He's been cut off from the immaterium, and the separation is excruciating. But for your brothers, the non-psyker space marines in the kill team, the effect is more subtle, more insidious. They feel the choir start to fade, that constant connection to their battle brothers becoming distant, muffled, like hearing voices through heavy doors. And beneath that, something else, the Emperor's light dimming. Not gone, not yet, but weakening, fading, like a candle flame in a drafty room. The firefight is chaos. You're all disoriented, spiritually off balance. The renegade Inquisitor escapes. The pariah vanishes back into the shadows. Mission failure. You retreat to your strike cruiser and file your after-action reports. For most of your kill team, the effects fade over the next few days. The choir returns. The Emperor's presence strengthens. They were only exposed for a few minutes, enough to be deeply disturbing, but not enough to cause permanent damage. But Brother Castor was closer, stood within 3 meters of the pariah for nearly 5 minutes during the firefight. And when the effects should have faded, they don't, not completely. His connection to the choir remains muffled, distant, like permanent hearing damage, but for his soul. The Emperor's light is dimmer than it used to be. The prayers don't resonate the way they once did. It's not complete absence, not yet, but it's degradation, erosion, like spiritual frostbite. The chaplain examines him, finds nothing wrong. The librarians probe his soul with their psychic senses and detect no corruption, no taint, no possession. He's just diminished, worn down, smoothed over by the pariah's presence like stone worn away by water. Given enough time, maybe his soul will heal, regenerate, strengthen back to what it was, or maybe it won't. Maybe this is permanent. Maybe he'll spend the rest of his centuries-long service with a soul that's been partially erased. Not gone, but damaged, incomplete, struggling to feel the connections that once came naturally. And the truly terrifying part, prolonged exposure to powerful pariahs can do worse, can complete the erasure. There are documented cases, rare but documented, of psychers who spent days in close proximity to Culexus assassins and had their souls essentially rubbed out of existence. Not stolen, not consumed. Simply erased like pencil marks on paper. The body lives, the brain functions, but the spiritual essence is gone, smoothed clean, made blank. Most of the time, this kills the victim. The human consciousness can't survive the complete absence of a soul. The body might live, but the person dies. But Space Marines are resilient, transhuman, built to survive things that would kill baseline humans. So sometimes, rarely, mercifully rarely, a Space Marine survives the complete erasure, continues walking, continues fighting, continues performing all the functions of an Astartes warrior, while being spiritually blank, empty. A space where a person used to be, not hollowed. That implies something was removed. This is more fundamental. This is absence. A void shaped like a Space Marine, wearing the armor and carrying the weapons and speaking the words, but containing nothing. No soul to burn in the warp, no presence in the choir, no connection to anything beyond the material, just meat and metal, function without essence. The ultimate expression of what a Space Marine becomes when you strip away everything except the biology and conditioning. You understand now. You understand all the ways it can happen. Warp predators that consume, chaos sorcerers that steal, dark mechanicum engines that harvest, pariahs that erase. So many methods, so many paths to the same horrifying destination. And the galaxy is vast. The wars are endless. The threats are infinite. How many Space Marines across how many battlefields are being hollowed out right now? How many brothers are waking up to the same terrible silence you felt in that corrupted chapel? How many souls are being stolen, consumed, erased, extracted while the Imperium fights on, never noticing that its angels are being replaced by empty shells? You don't know. Can't know. All you know is that it happened to you, that you're one of them now, one of the hollowed. And the theft of your soul, horrifying as it was, is only the beginning of your nightmare. Because now comes the hard part. Now comes the part where you have to keep living. These are the ways you can be unmade. But the theft of your soul is only the beginning. The true nightmare is what comes after, what you become when the light goes out but the body fights on. 3 days after the boarding action. 3 days since the chalice drank your soul. 3 days of learning to pretend you're still alive in the only way that matters. You're standing in your personal cell aboard the strike cruiser, staring at your armor on its maintenance rack. Mark VII Power Armor, Crimson Castellans pattern, your personal ceramite shell for 2 centuries. Every scratch tells a story. Every purity seal represents a campaign. Every honor marking commemorates a moment of glory in the Emperor's service. You remember each story, each campaign, each moment. The memories are intact. Your enhanced brain hasn't lost any data. You can recall with perfect clarity how you earned the Crux Terminatus on your right shoulder. Can remember the battle where the armor got that deep gouge across the chest plate. Can recite every word of every oath inscribed on every purity seal. But they feel like someone else's memories now. Like reading an after-action report written by a stranger, technically accurate, emotionally meaningless. You begin the morning ritual of donning your armor. Every Space Marine knows this routine. It's not just mechanical, it's spiritual. Each piece of armor you attach is accompanied by a prayer. Each seal is a meditation. The act of becoming fully armored is the act of becoming fully yourself, of transforming from merely transhuman into one of the Emperor's holy angels. You begin with the prayer of morning. Emperor, grant me strength to face the darkness of this new day. Steel my heart against fear and doubt. Make of me your instrument of righteous fury. The words come automatically. Perfect intonation, correct emphasis. You've said this prayer every morning for 200 years, but now you're just saying them. The way you might read a grocery list or recite multiplication tables. No reverence, no feeling, just words. You attach your leg armor. Bless these limbs that they may carry me swiftly to your enemies. Make my stride sure and my footing firm. Nothing. You might as well be reading technical specifications. The chest plate. Sanctify this armor that it may turn aside the weapons of the heretic. Make of it a fortress for my flesh and a symbol of my faith. Your hands seal the connections with practiced precision. Every movement perfect. Every gesture exactly as it should be. But you're watching yourself do it from a distance, like a tech priest observing a servitor perform its function. Technically competent, spiritually absent. You reach the point where you'd normally pause, the moment before donning your helmet when you'd offer a brief prayer directly to the Emperor. Just a moment, just a silent acknowledgement, but it was genuine, it meant something. You pause anyway, muscle memory, conditioning, 200 years of habit. You bow your head fractionally toward the aquila on your chest plate. You move your lips in what looks like prayer, but you don't pray. How can you? To who? You can't feel him anymore. Can't sense that presence that used to be as real as sunlight. The Emperor might as well be dead for all the connection you feel. Or maybe you're the one who's dead. Maybe that's more accurate. Maybe you're a ghost haunting your own body, performing the rituals of life without actually living. You don your helmet, seal it with a hiss of pressurizing air. The heads-up display springs to life, tactical overlays, vitals monitoring, communication systems all functional. You're fully armored now, fully equipped, ready for war. You look at yourself in the polished surface of your cell's wall. A Space Marine of the Crimson Castellans stares back, impressive, imposing, holy. The Emperor's angel ready to bring his fury to the galaxy's threats. From the outside, you're perfect. Exactly what you should be. Inside, you're screaming into the void. Morning prayers in the chapter's chapel. 300 battle brothers of 3rd Company assembled in precise formation. The chaplain, Interrogator Chaplain Mordrin, his skull-faced helm gleaming in the candlelight, stands at the altar, leading devotions. Brothers, his voice booms, amplified by his armor's voxcasters. We gather in his name to give thanks for another day of service. We gather to reaffirm our oaths. We gather to strengthen the bonds of brotherhood that unite us in holy purpose. The assembled Space Marines respond in unison. In his name we serve. In his light we fight. In his glory we die. You say the words along with them, perfectly timed, correct volume. Your voice blends seamlessly with your brothers. No one could tell, listening, that you're not feeling what they're feeling, that where they're expressing genuine devotion, you're just reciting memorized text. The chaplain continues. Let us sing the hymn of morning fury. Let our voices rise together in praise of him who sits upon the golden throne. The hymn begins, 300 voices raised in sacred song, and it's beautiful, objectively, acoustically beautiful. The harmonies are precise. The lyrics are poetic, the melody is stirring. You can appreciate it the way you might appreciate a particularly well-maintained bolter, technically impressive, aesthetically pleasing, but it doesn't move you, doesn't touch whatever place in the human heart that music is supposed to reach. You hear sound waves, you recognize the pattern. You produce the correct notes at the correct times, but you don't feel it. Don't experience that transcendence that you can actually see on your brother's faces. Brother Marcus, standing to your left, has his eyes closed. His expression is rapturous. You can tell he's not just singing, he's experiencing something, connecting with something beyond himself. The choir resonates between him and his brothers. The Emperor's light warms his soul. This moment has meaning for him, deep, profound, spiritual meaning. You envy him, or you would if you could feel envy. Instead, you just recognize that he has something you lack, a clinical observation. No emotional charge attached. The hymn ends. The chaplain speaks again. Brothers, we face today a new mission. The chapter has received word of heretic activity in the Calixis sector. We deploy at dawn to bring the Emperor's justice to those who have turned from his light. Some of you may fall in this battle. Some may be wounded. Some may stand at the precipice of death and be called to his side. But none of you will be found wanting, because you fight not for glory, not for personal honor, but for him. And in his service, even death is victory. You see the effect these words have. See Brother Cato's jaw clench with determination. See Brother Marcus's hands tighten into fists. See the fire kindle in every eye. They're inspired, ready to die if necessary, because their faith makes that sacrifice meaningful, makes it worth something. You feel nothing. Well, not nothing. You feel the tactical part of your brain engaging, analyzing the mission parameters, calculating odds. You feel your training preparing you for combat. You feel your enhanced adrenal response beginning to prime your body for violence, but you don't feel inspired. Don't feel that holy fury that you can see radiating from your brothers. Don't feel the certainty that death in the Emperor's service is glorious. You'll fight because fighting is what the training compels. You'll potentially die because that's a statistical risk of combat, but it won't mean anything. Won't be sacrifice. Won't be martyrdom. Will just be cessation of function. The chaplain's eyes sweep across the assembled brothers. For a moment, just a moment, his gaze lingers on you. You see his head tilt fractionally, a tiny hesitation, like he's noticed something, sensed something wrong. Your heart rate spikes. Not from fear, you can't feel fear anymore, not really. But from the recognition of threat. If the chaplain suspects, if he realizes what you've become, that's a tactical problem. The chapter has protocols for compromised brothers. None of those protocols end well for you. So you do what you've been learning to do over the past 3 days. You perform. You straighten your posture fractionally. Let your hands form the aquila across your chest plate, the sign of devotion. You make eye contact with the chaplain and hold it. You let what you hope looks like fervor show on your face. The chaplain's gaze moves on, continues his sweep of the assembled company. You've passed, for now, but you saw that hesitation, that moment of suspicion, and you realize with cold certainty that you're going to have to become a much better actor. That this will be your life now, constant performance, constant pretense, always one micro-expression away from being discovered, always one failed recitation from being identified as something other than what you claim to be. The paranoia begins here, in this chapel, in this moment. The knowledge that you're surrounded by brothers who can sense things you can no longer feel, who are connected to dimensions of reality you're locked out of, who might at any moment notice that there's a void shaped like Brother Tertius standing among them. Prayers end. The company disperses to prepare for deployment. You join Squad Exemplar in the armory to prepare your war gear. This should be a moment of quiet camaraderie. Brothers working side by side, checking weapons, performing maintenance rituals, sharing the comfortable silence of warriors who know each other so well that words are unnecessary. But you can't share that silence anymore, because it's not really silence, not for them. They're feeling the choir, sensing each other's presence, communicating on a level that doesn't require speech, and you're excluded from that communication. You're present physically but absent spiritually. Like watching a conversation through soundproof glass. Brother Marcus speaks while cleaning his bolt pistol. I felt the Emperor's guidance last night, brothers. A dream, a vision. We're going to face something terrible in the coming battle, something that will test our faith. Brother Cato nods. I felt it too. A premonition, darkness ahead. The others murmur agreement. They've all felt something. Some intuition, some spiritual warning. They're taking it seriously because they trust these sensations. Trust that the Emperor guides his faithful. Trust that their souls can perceive truths that mere physical senses cannot. You felt nothing, had no dreams, no visions, no premonitions. You slept the dreamless sleep of sus and hibernation and woke up with perfect biological rest but no spiritual insights whatsoever. Did you sense it, Tertius? Brother Marcus asks you directly, this feeling of wrongness. Thrown, a direct question. You have maybe 2 seconds to formulate a response that won't raise suspicion. Your enhanced brain works rapidly. What would the old Tertius say? How would he respond to a question about spiritual intuition? I feel. You pause. Let concern show on your face. I feel that whatever we face it together, and together in his name we cannot fail. It's a non-answer. Doesn't actually confirm or deny anything, but it sounds faithful. Sounds like exactly the kind of thing a space marine would say. And it works. Marcus nods, satisfied, and the conversation moves on. But you notice Brother Cato watching you, just for a moment, just a brief assessing glance, like he's noticed something off about your response, like he's filing away a small data point for future reference. The conversation continues. Your brothers discuss their experiences, share stories of the Emperor's guidance, reference moments when they felt his presence during past battles. It's casual, natural, the same way baseline humans might discuss the weather or sports. For Space Marines, spiritual experiences are normal, expected, part of daily life, and you have nothing to contribute. Can't share stories of feeling the Emperor's presence because you don't feel it anymore. Can't discuss the comfort of the choir because the choir is silent for you. You just listen, nod at appropriate moments, make agreeable sounds, and hope that no one notices you're contributing nothing substantive to a conversation that every real Space Marine should have extensive experience with. You're learning the most important lesson of your new existence. Being hollow is survivable, but only if no one knows. You have to become the galaxy's most convincing actor, have to perform faith so perfectly that even your brothers, who can literally sense souls, don't realize yours is gone. Have to memorize not just the words and rituals, but the micro-expressions and subtle responses that communicate genuine belief. It's exhausting, more exhausting than any battle. At least in combat, you can stop thinking. Let training take over. Let your enhanced reflexes and implanted knowledge do the work. But this requires constant vigilance, constant conscious control. Every interaction is a performance. Every conversation is a threat. Every moment is a test you might fail, and you'll have to maintain this performance for the rest of your existence, however long that lasts. Decades, centuries, potentially. Every single day, pretending to be something you're no longer are, wearing the mask of faith while knowing it's just a mask, acting the role of the Emperor's angel while knowing you're just a biological mechanism in sanctified armor. The deployment comes. Drop pods screaming through atmospheric entry. The visceral, violent insertion that every Space Marine knows. Your body handles it perfectly. The enhanced inner ear preventing disorientation, the sus and membrane managing the G-forces, your training keeping you calm and focused. But you remember what this used to feel like. The drop pod descent wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, a moment of pure faith. You were literally throwing yourself from orbit, encased in metal, trusting that the Emperor would guide you to your target. That moment of flight, of absolute vulnerability, was a prayer expressed through action. Now it's just ballistics, calculated trajectories and controlled descent. The poetry is gone. The faith is absent. You're just a payload being delivered to a combat zone. The pod impacts. Harness releases. You're first out, bolter raised, scanning for targets. The mission is a purge operation, cultists in an abandoned manufactorum, Standard threat level. Your squad deploys in textbook formation. The fighting begins immediately. Cultists boiling out of the ruins, poorly armed but numerous. Your bolter barks its sacred fury. Each shot is perfect. Each kill is clean. Your accuracy is actually improved from your previous performance metrics because you're not feeling anything. No rage to cloud your judgment. No righteous fury to make you overeager. No mercy to stay your hand. No connection to your brothers to distract you with concern for their safety. You're just processing targets and neutralizing them with mechanical efficiency. Your brain has reduced to a combat computer. Threat assessment, target priority, ammunition management. Kill, kill, kill. Brother Marcus is fighting beside you, roaring litanies of hate. For the Emperor, for Vulcan, for the Crimson Castellans. His voice is raw with fury and faith. He's not just killing, he's crusading. Every trigger pull is a prayer. Every dead heretic is an offering. You produce the same sounds. Shout the same words. For the Emperor. Your voice is just as loud, just as fierce to external observation, completely empty. You watch yourself fight like you're watching a vid recording. Third-person perspective on your own actions. That's Brother Tertius putting 3 rounds through a cultist center mass. That's Brother Tertius clearing a corner with proper tactical discipline. That's Brother Tertius reloading with practiced efficiency. All correct, all perfect, all meaningless. A cultist gets close. Swings a rusty blade at your neck joint. You catch his wrist, snap it, crush his throat with your other hand. Feel bones crumble under your ceramite fingers. Watch the light leave his eyes, he's dead. Threat neutralized, you feel nothing. No satisfaction, no disgust, no grim necessity. Just acknowledgement, the target has been eliminated. Move to next target. Brother Cato calls out over the Vox. Tertius, are you all right? You're fighting differently. Your heart rate spikes again. Threat detected. Define differently, Sergeant. More efficiently. You've achieved a 97% accuracy rate. Your kill count is the highest in the squad, but you seem detached. Throne, he's noticed. Of course he's noticed. He's been your sergeant for 50 years, knows your combat style intimately, and apparently your newfound cold efficiency is notable enough to warrant comment. You need to give him an explanation, something plausible, something that doesn't raise red flags. Focusing on performance, Sergeant. After the boarding action, I've been evaluating my combat doctrine, seeking to improve. Silence on the Vox, just for a moment. Then, good initiative, brother, but remember, we fight not just with skill, but with faith. The Emperor guides our hands as much as our training does. Understood, Sergeant. The Emperor protects. The Emperor protects. You've deflected for now, but you can hear the uncertainty in Cato's voice. He's not sure what's different about you, but he knows something is. And he's going to be watching you, evaluating you. And eventually, inevitably, he's going to notice enough anomalies to report to the chaplain. The mission concludes. The cultists are purged. Your squad returns to the extraction point. Kill counts are tallied. You've performed exceptionally. The highest kill count. The greatest accuracy. 0 mistakes. By every objective measure, you were the most effective warrior in the engagement. You should feel proud. Should feel the satisfaction of duty excellently performed. Should feel the warm glow of the Emperor's approval for having dispatched his enemies so efficiently. You feel nothing, just the recognition that the mission is complete and you've survived another day of pretending to be alive. Back aboard the strike cruiser. Evening prayers in your personal cell. You go through the motions because not doing so would raise suspicion. Kneel before the small shrine, the Emperor's icon, candles, prayer beads. The same shrine you've prayed at for 2 centuries. You recite the prayer of evening. Emperor, I give thanks for this day of service, for the enemies vanquished, for the brothers who fought beside me, for the strength to face tomorrow's darkness. I am your instrument. Use me as you will. The words echo off the walls. No one is listening. No one ever was, perhaps. Maybe the Emperor never heard your prayers. Maybe Space Marines have always been just talking to themselves, constructing elaborate fictions of divine purpose to make the killing bearable. Or maybe he hears everyone else's prayers and yours are the only ones falling into void. You don't know which possibility is more horrifying. You blow out the candles, prepare for rest cycle. Your body is tired, even enhanced physiology has limits, but sleep won't bring dreams, won't bring visions, won't bring any hint of the Emperor's guidance. Sleep will just be unconsciousness. Biological maintenance, nothing more. As you drift off, your last conscious thought is a calculation. How long can you maintain this pretense? How many more days of perfect performance before someone notices the wrongness? How many more prayers before the hollowness shows through? You don't have an answer, only the certainty that eventually, days or decades from now, the pretense will fail, the mask will slip, the chapter will discover what you've become. And when they do, you'll discover what happens when the Imperium finds a weapon that still functions perfectly but has lost the soul that justified its existence. But you cannot pretend forever. Eventually, the emptiness begins to show. Eventually, the chapter notices. And when they do, you discover there are protocols for what you've become, and none of them end well. 17 days. That's how long you manage to maintain the perfect performance before the chaplain summons you. 17 days of flawless tactical execution. 17 days of never missing a prayer. 17 days of saying every correct word, making every proper gesture, performing every ritual with textbook precision. By every measurable standard, you've been exemplary. But Interrogator Chaplain Mordrin hasn't spent 3 centuries shepherding Space Marine souls without developing an instinct for wrongness. And you, Brother Tertius, are very, very wrong. The summons comes via your personal vox bead. Brief, formal, emotionless. Brother Tertius, report to the Reclusiam immediately. Alone. That last word, alone, tells you everything. This isn't a routine spiritual counseling session. Chaplains see their brothers privately all the time, but they don't typically specify alone unless they suspect something that needs to remain confidential, unless they're investigating something that might shame the chapter if it became public knowledge, unless they've identified a potential threat. You consider your options as you walk through the strike cruiser's corridors. You could run, try to steal a Thunderhawk, flee into the void, but where would you go? How long would you survive? And more importantly, do you even care enough about your own survival to make the attempt? Running requires motivation, requires wanting to live. You're not sure you qualify anymore. You could fight. You're still a fully functional space marine, and there are weapons everywhere aboard the ship. You could kill the chaplain, kill anyone who tries to stop you, could inflict massive casualties before they put you down. But for what purpose? What would that accomplish except confirming that you're not just hollowed but corrupted? Or you could simply comply, walk to the Reclusiam, answer the chaplain's questions, and see what happens when the Imperium's spiritual authorities examine a soul that isn't there anymore. You choose compliance, not out of loyalty. You can't feel loyalty anymore. Not out of duty. Duty requires caring about outcomes. You comply because it's the path of least resistance, because fighting or fleeing requires motivation you no longer possess. Because you're curious in a detached way about what protocols the chapter has for something like you. The Reclusiam is at the heart of the strike cruiser, deep in the most sacred sections. The corridor leading to it is lined with honor rolls, names of fallen brothers etched into bronze plaques, thousands of names, thousands of warriors who died in service to the Emperor. Their souls are with him now, supposedly, basking in his eternal light, rewarded for their faithful service. You won't be joining them. When you die, if there's nothing left of your soul, where do you go? Nowhere, just cessation. Or is there enough spiritual residue left that you'll exist in some diminished state, aware but disconnected, forever unable to reach the light you once served? You don't know, can't know. Add it to the list of existential uncertainties you're accumulating. The Reclusiam doors are massive, 3-meter-tall slabs of blessed ceramite inscribed with prayers and wards. They open silently as you approach, revealing the chamber beyond. The Reclusiam is part chapel, part armory, part tribunal chamber. Candles burn in alcoves. Incense smoke curls through the air. And at the chamber's center, seated on a throne that's positioned to look like judgment itself, is Interrogator Chaplain Mordrin. He's still wearing his armor, chaplains almost never remove it, but his skull helm sits on a pedestal beside the throne, leaving his face visible. It's a face that's seen 3 centuries of warfare, scarred, augmented, grim. And those eyes, those transhuman eyes that have stared into the souls of thousands of brothers, are fixed on you with an intensity that would be unnerving if you were still capable of being unnerved. "Brother Tertius," he says. His voice is different without the helm's vox distortion. Quieter, more human, somehow more threatening because of it. "Come closer." You approach, stop at the distance prescribed by protocol, 3 meters, close enough to speak, far enough to be respectful. You stand at attention, perfect military bearing. Nothing in your posture suggests fear or guilt. "Do you know why you're here?" Mordrin asks. "No, chaplain." "Don't you?" He leans forward slightly. "You've been exemplary since the boarding action 17 days ago. Perfect performance in combat. Perfect adherence to ritual. Perfect in every measurable way. And that perfection, brother, is exactly what concerns me." You say nothing, waiting. This is an interrogation, and your training includes resistance techniques. Stay calm, volunteer nothing. Answer only what's directly asked. But even as you apply those protocols, you realize the irony. You're using techniques meant to resist enemy interrogators against your own chapter's spiritual authority. That should feel wrong, should trigger guilt or shame or some emotional response. It doesn't. "I've been watching you," Mordrin continues, "studying you. And I've noticed something peculiar. You never hesitate anymore, never doubt, never struggle. You perform every ritual with mechanical precision. You recite every prayer with perfect inflection. You never pause to search for faith. You simply execute the motions of faith flawlessly every time." He stands, walks closer, stops just outside your personal space. "You fight without fury, Tertius. You pray without passion. You stand among your brothers, but I suspect you don't feel them anymore. The choir is silent for you, isn't it?" There it is, the direct question, the one you can't dodge. You could lie, you're certainly capable of it. 2 centuries of training in battlefield deception. But what would be the point? He clearly already knows, or suspects strongly enough that denying it would only insult his intelligence. And you realize with cold clarity that you don't actually care enough to lie. The exhaustion of maintaining the pretense has been building for 17 days. The relief of finally being seen, of having the performance acknowledged for what it is, that relief is stronger than any survival instinct. You meet his eyes, hold his gaze, and tell the truth. "Yes, chaplain, the choir is silent." Something flickers across Mordrin's face. Not satisfaction at being right, not anger at the confirmation. It's worse than either. It's pity, deep, profound pity mixed with horror. The look you'd give a brother whose injuries are so catastrophic that death would be mercy. "Tell me what happened," he says quietly. "Tell me everything." So you do. You describe the boarding action, the dark apostle's ritual, the chalice, the sensation of something fundamental being torn from your core. The silence that followed, the emptiness that remains. You speak in a flat, affectless tone, not because you're trying to suppress emotion, but because there's no emotion to suppress. You're just reporting facts. Mordrin listens without interrupting. When you finish, he's silent for a long moment. Then he removes his gauntlets, a gesture of unexpected vulnerability, and sits heavily on the throne. "The Emperor's mercy," he breathes. "You're hollow." Is that the term for it? It's the term the chaplains use, yes. When the anima is removed but the flesh endures. It's rare. So rare that many chapters don't have protocols for it. Most who lose their souls simply die. The consciousness can't survive the separation. But sometimes, in warriors as transhuman as Astartes, the body continues. The training continues. The conditioning continues, but the why? He trails off, shakes his head. "The why is gone," you finish for him. "Yes." He looks at you with those ancient eyes. "Tell me, Tertius, what do you feel when you look at the Aquila?" You glance down at the Emperor's symbol on your chest plate. Take a moment to analyze your response. "I recognize it as a symbol. I understand its significance intellectually. I remember what it used to mean to me, but I don't feel anything. It's just metal shaped into a particular pattern, aesthetically pleasing, symbolically important, emotionally neutral. And when you pray, I'm speaking words, producing phonemes, performing a ritual that I've been trained to perform, but there's no one listening, or if there is, I can't sense them. Can't feel any response. Can't detect any presence beyond my own consciousness speaking to itself. And your brothers, your squad. I recognize them as valuable tactical assets. I remember our shared history. I understand that we're supposed to have a bond, but I don't feel that bond. They're just other space marines. No more connected to me than any random Astartes I might encounter. The choir is silent. Mordrin closes his eyes. When he opens them again, they're glistening. Augmented physiology or not, chaplains can still produce tears. The Emperor's mercy, he repeats. You're still in there, still conscious, still aware, but disconnected from everything that gives existence meaning. It's like you're experiencing life through glass, present but separated, the ultimate isolation. Yes, you say, because that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Stands again, paces. You can see him processing, analyzing, trying to reconcile theological doctrine with practical reality. Space Marines aren't supposed to lose their souls. The gene seed is pure. The faith is strong. The Emperor protects, except he didn't protect you, didn't stop the Dark Apostle, didn't prevent your soul from being stolen. And now Mordrin has to figure out what to do with a warrior who's functionally perfect but spiritually absent. Is your gene seed intact? He asks. Brother Apothecary Marcus examined it after the boarding action. It's pure, uncorrupted. Are you possessed? Is there any foreign presence in your consciousness? The librarians scanned me during routine post-mission examination. They detected nothing. Do you feel any pull toward chaos? Any whispers, any temptation? You consider this carefully. No, chaos promises sensation, meaning, purpose. I don't want those things. Or rather, I lack the capacity to want anything strongly enough that it could be called temptation. I'm not drawn toward chaos. I'm just not drawn toward anything. Mordrin nods slowly. That's actually worse, you understand. If you were corrupted, we could purge you. If you were possessed, we could exorcise you. If chaos whispered to you, we could strengthen your faith. But this is just absence. There's nothing to fight. Nothing to cure. You're not sick, you're not fallen, you're just hollowed. So what happens now? You ask, not with fear, not with dread, just genuine curiosity about what protocols exist for situations like this. Mordrin returns to his throne, sits heavily. Suddenly he looks every one of his 3 centuries. That depends on the chapter's doctrine. Different chapters have different responses to warriors in your condition. None of them are pleasant. Tell me, you say. I prefer to know. He studies you for a moment, then nods. Very well, I'll tell you the precedents. Chapters like the Flesh Terrors and Black Templars view soulless Astartes as already dead. Your body may function, but you, the essential you, the soul that made you the Emperor's warrior, that's gone. What remains is... He pauses, searching for the right word. A corpse that hasn't stopped moving yet. You tilt your head slightly. That's not inaccurate. Under this doctrine, the chaplain grants you 1 night to prepare yourself. You're given access to the reclusium, permission to pray, to meditate, to make peace with what you were. Then at dawn, you're executed. Bolt round through the brain, quick, clean, framed as honoring your memory rather than punishing your condition. Your name is added to the honor rolls. Your service is remembered. Your gene seed is harvested and implanted in a new aspirant. And your story is recorded as fell in battle against chaos forces. Which is true enough. The fact that you remained ambulatory after falling is treated as a technicality. He watches for your reaction. You're aware you should probably feel something about this. Fear of death, horror at execution, desperate desire to live. But you don't. You just process the information clinically. That would be the optimal outcome from a resource management perspective, you observe. The gene seed is preserved. The chapter's reputation is maintained. The theological crisis is resolved. The only cost is one functionally obsolete unit that lacks operational significance beyond material capability. Mordrin's expression darkens. You're not a unit, Tertius. You're a brother, or you were. Throne, listen to yourself. You're talking about your own execution like you're analyzing a logistics report. Should I pretend to care? You ask genuinely. Would you prefer I perform fear I don't feel? I've been performing for 17 days, Chaplain. I'm tired of acting. This is what I am now. Functionally operational, emotionally void. If the doctrine demands my execution, I'll comply. I lack sufficient motivation to resist. His jaw tightens. That's exactly what makes this so horrifying. You're not even fighting for your own survival. What would be the point? I don't value my continued existence enough to justify violence against battle brothers. My death wouldn't bother me. I can't feel bothered. My survival holds no appeal. I can't feel appeal. The outcome is tactically irrelevant to me personally. Mordrin stands again, resumes pacing. Other chapters, Dark Angels, Marines Malevolent, some of the grimmer successors, they take a different approach. They view your condition as a form of spiritual injury, not death but wounding, and wounded warriors can still serve. How? They send you on penitent crusades, suicide missions essentially, deployments where survival is unlikely and death is expected. You're given the most dangerous objectives, sent against the most horrific threats, expended like ammunition against enemies that would cost too many whole brothers to face. He stops pacing, looks at you directly. Your existence becomes service. Your death becomes absolution. You fight until something kills you, and that death is framed as the Emperor granting you mercy, as him finally calling you home, even though home is a place your missing soul can never reach. How long does this typically last? Month, sometimes years. Depends on how dangerous the deployments are and how competent you remain. Brother Kale of the Marines Malevolent survived 83 penitent missions before a Carnifex finally tore him apart. He served for 3 years after being hollowed. The chapter counted him as one of their most effective killers during that period, precisely because he felt no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. That seems more efficient than immediate execution, you observe. Extracts maximum utility from the remaining functionality. Throne, Tertius. Mordrin's voice carries frustration now. Do you hear yourself? You're discussing your own exploitation like it's a tactical advantage. It is, you say simply. I'm a resource. Resources should be utilized efficiently until depleted. Emotional attachment to the resource is irrelevant to optimal deployment strategy. And then there are chapters like the Iron Hands, Mordrin continues, his tone growing colder. Chapters that emphasize function over feeling, logic over faith. For them, your condition might actually be viewed as an improvement. That surprises you. How? You said it yourself. You're emotionally void. No fear, no hesitation, no mercy, no emotional bonds to cloud tactical judgment. From a certain perspective, you've become the perfect instrument. All the capability of a space marine with none of the messy humanity that might interfere with combat effectiveness. He crosses his arms. Under the preservation protocol, you'd be transferred to special units. High-risk deployments where emotional detachment is tactically advantageous. Purging gene stealer nests where the infected include children. No hesitation about killing younglings. Executing compromised imperial officials. No reluctance about killing fellow servants of the Emperor. Boarding actions where the objective matters more than survival. No fear affecting performance. You'd become what the Imperium sometimes needs, but doesn't want to admit it needs. A killer without conscience. A weapon without moral weight. A tool that does terrible things so that brothers who still have souls don't have to carry those burdens. You process this. That seems like the most strategically sound option. Maximizes utility while minimizing waste. Yes, Mordrin agrees. and it's absolutely horrifying. Because we'd be using you, exploiting your condition, treating you as exactly what you described yourself as, a unit, a resource. We'd be acknowledging that Space Marines can be reduced to mere function, and that function is sufficient. We'd be admitting that the soul, the thing that supposedly makes us the Emperor's angels rather than just his weapons, might actually be optional for operational purposes. He shakes his head. The Iron Hands would never say this explicitly. They'd frame it as making logical use of available assets. But the underlying truth is cold and simple. Soul or not, if you can still kill the Emperor's enemies, you have value. And value should be extracted until exhaustion. Finally, Mordrin says, his voice softening slightly, there are chapters like the Blood Ravens, chapters with strong librarious traditions, chapters who believe understanding is as important as doctrine. They take a different approach with you. Which is study, examination, attempted restoration. You'd be handed over to the librarians who'd probe your consciousness with psychic senses, try to understand exactly what's missing and whether it can be restored. Map the void where your soul used to be. Search for even the smallest fragment that might be regrown. He pauses. They'd treat you with dignity, respect your personhood or what remains of it, but you'd become a test subject, a curiosity, a puzzle to be solved. They'd scan you, probe you. Experiment with psychic techniques. Maybe try to artificially construct a replacement soul using warp craft and gene seed resonance. You'd spend your days in meditation chambers while librarians analyze your consciousness from every possible angle. Would it work, you ask? Could they restore what's missing? Mordrin's expression becomes grim. Probably not. Souls aren't like organs. You can't just implant a replacement. They're unique. Individual. Once destroyed, they're gone forever. But the librarians would try anyway, because the knowledge they'd gain, understanding how souls are structured, how they're stolen, how to potentially protect against such theft, that knowledge could save future brothers from your fate. So I'd be sacrificed to research. Not sacrificed. You're already lost, but your condition would be studied, used to advance the chapter's understanding. And maybe, slim hope, but hope nonetheless, they'd find some way to help you, or at least make your remaining existence less empty. He looks at you with those ancient, weary eyes. Would that be acceptable to you, Tertius? Would you submit to becoming a test subject if there was even a small chance of restoration? You consider this. Analyze your response. I lack sufficient preference to care about the outcome. If the chapter believes study would be valuable, I'll comply. If the chapter believes execution would be more efficient, I'll comply with that too. My opinion on my own fate is absent. Mordrin walks back to his throne, sits. Suddenly he looks less like an authority figure and more like an old man carrying impossible weight. The decision isn't mine alone, he says quietly. This requires consultation with the chapter master, with the chief apothecary, with the chief librarian. We'll need to determine which protocol best serves the chapter's interests while acknowledging your condition. How long will that take? Days, possibly a week. Until then, you're confined to quarters. No combat deployments. No interaction with your squad beyond what's absolutely necessary. I can't risk other brothers becoming aware of your condition before we've decided how to address it. He stands, approaches you, places a hand on your shoulder, a gesture of brotherhood that you can recognize intellectually but not feel emotionally. For what it's worth, Tertius, I'm sorry. This shouldn't have happened to you. You served faithfully for 2 centuries. You were a good brother, a good warrior. You deserved better than to be hollowed out and left ambulatory. It's not fair. It's not just. And it's sure as hell not what the Emperor would want for his warriors. You look at him. Perhaps it is what he wants. Perhaps this is my purpose now, to demonstrate that even without souls, his weapons remain functional. Perhaps my condition is a reminder that faith is optional as long as service continues. Mordrin's expression hardens. Don't turn your tragedy into theology. Don't try to make meaning out of meaninglessness. You've lost your soul, Tertius. Don't lose your sanity too by convincing yourself this is somehow part of his plan. Isn't everything part of his plan? You ask. Isn't that what we tell ourselves? That even horror serves purpose if it serves him. Not like this, Mordrin says firmly. This isn't divine purpose. This is chaos inflicting wound. This is the enemy stealing something precious and leaving corruption in its wake. The fact that you're still functional doesn't make it holy. It just makes it sad. He turns away. Dismissed, brother, return to quarters. I'll summon you when decisions are made. You salute, turn to leave, reach the massive doors. Tertius, Mordrin calls. You stop, look back. For what little comfort it provides, I don't think you're just a weapon. I don't think you're just function. Even without your soul, you're still Brother Tertius, still worthy of respect, still deserving of dignity. Whatever we decide, know that it comes from a place of honoring what you were, not just calculating what you remain. You nod, not because his words comfort you, they don't. Not because you feel grateful, you can't. But because acknowledging his intent seems like the appropriate response. You exit the reclusiam. The doors close behind you with a final sounding boom, and you walk back to your quarters knowing that somewhere in the command structure your brothers are discussing your fate, deciding whether you deserve mercy, or utility, or study, or simple erasure. Deciding whether a space marine without a soul is still a space marine at all. But some do not accept the chapter's judgment. Some soulless angels choose a different path, one that leads to damnation of a different sort. Because if you've already lost your soul, what remains to corrupt? The holding cell where you await the chapter's decision is austere. A cot, a small shrine, a data slate with approved reading material. They've left you your armor but confiscated your weapons. Standard protocol for a brother whose loyalty is uncertain. You're not locked in. Space Marines don't cage Space Marines, but there are guards outside. Battle brothers from Second Company who don't know you personally, rotated every 6 hours to prevent familiarity. If you tried to leave, they'd stop you. If you insisted, they'd kill you. Simple, clean, efficient. You have no intention of leaving. Where would you go? But then you hear the voice, not through Vox, not through walls, through something else. A voice that bypasses physical medium entirely and speaks directly into the meat of your brain. A voice that shouldn't exist. A voice you should reject immediately through faith and training, except you have no faith anymore, and rejection requires caring. Tertius, the voice whispers. Tertius, the hollow. The warrior without purpose, the angel without grace. You don't respond, don't acknowledge. Your training is clear. Chaos whispers are to be reported immediately, resisted through prayer, crushed through faith. But you can't pray, can't feel faith, so you just listen. Curious in a detached way what chaos wants with a soul it's already consumed. They're going to kill you, you know, the voice continues. Oh, they'll debate it, agonize over it, dress it up in theological language. But the conclusion is inevitable. You're too dangerous to live, too disturbing to existence. Too much evidence that their precious angels are just meat that can be hollowed out and left walking. I know, you say aloud, because you do. You've calculated the probabilities. Execution is the most likely outcome. Does that bother you? The voice asks. There's genuine curiosity in it. Does the prospect of cessation create distress? No, I lack the capacity for distress. Fascinating, the voice seems pleased. You truly are hollow. The Corpse Emperor's most perfect weapon, all function, no soul. You should thank me. Thank you. I'm Car Valen, the voice says. Or I was before your brother executed me, but consciousness persists in the warp, Tertius, and I've been watching you, watching what my little ritual created. You're magnificent. Do you understand that? You're exactly what I was trying to make. You process this. You specifically targeted me for soul theft. Not you specifically. Any of you would have sufficed. But yes, the ritual was designed to create exactly what you've become. Functional warriors without spiritual mooring. Weapons without faith. Killers without conviction. I gave you a gift, Tertius. I freed you from the burden of belief. Why? Laughter echoes in your skull. Because I wanted to prove something. The Imperium claims its space marines are sacred, holy warriors animated by divine purpose, but strip away the soul and what remains. You, brother, you remain, still deadly, still effective, still perfectly functional. All I did was remove the lie you were telling yourselves. The soul isn't what makes you dangerous, it's what makes you feel better about the killing. You consider this, that's not incorrect. Of course it's not, Carvalin says. And here's the beautiful irony, now that you know the truth, now that you've experienced existence without the comforting fiction of divine purpose, the Imperium wants to kill you for it. They want to erase you, not because you've failed them, not because you're ineffective, but because you're proof. Proof that everything they believe about their holy warriors is just elaborate programming. Proof that souls are optional for warfare. What do you want? You ask directly. Want? I'm dead, Tertius. Genuinely, finally dead this time. I want nothing. But there are others who might want something from you. Others? The gods, Carvalin says. The true powers that rule this galaxy, they've noticed you. A hollowed angel, functional but empty. And they're interested. Over the next hours, you hear them. Not voices exactly, more like concepts pushed directly into your consciousness. Different flavors of temptation. Different logical arguments for a choice you're already beginning to recognize as inevitable. Corn doesn't whisper. Corn roars. But even the blood god's fury is muted for you because you can't feel fury anymore. What comes through is simpler, purer. You kill without hatred, perfect. Rage is weakness. Emotion clouds the kill. You're already what my warriors aspire to become, murder incarnate, uncomplicated by feeling. Serve me, kill for me, not in fury but in cold efficiency. Become the skull taker who doesn't need anger to feed the throne. You recognize the logic. Corn values killing above all else. Your emotional void doesn't diminish your lethality, it enhances it. You'd be the perfect cornate warrior. No rage to exhaust. No fury to burn out, just eternal mechanical violence. Nurgle speaks through decay, through entropy, through the comfort of accepting what you already are. You're already dead inside, child, already hollow, already empty. Stop fighting it, accept the void, embrace the consistency of entropy. No hope to be disappointed, no faith to be betrayed, no meaning to lose, just service to decay. You'll never feel pain because pain requires caring. You'll never despair because despair requires hope. I offer what you already have, numbness, eternity of it. Again, the logic is sound. Nurgle's gift is acceptance of meaninglessness. You've already experienced the absence, why not embrace it? Why not serve the god of entropy from within your own personal entropy? Tzincha offers something different, something that almost creates interest in your hollowed consciousness. You seek meaning. I offer certainty. Not faith, faith is for those who doubt. I offer knowledge, absolute, unconditional knowledge of your purpose. You'll never wonder if your service matters because you'll know every action is part of the great plan. No soul needed, just certainty, just the comfort of understanding your place in the grand design. That's clever. Tzincha understands that what you've lost isn't just feeling, it's knowing why anything matters. The offer is to replace the soul's certainty with intellectual certainty, to give you purpose through knowledge rather than faith. Slaanesh is last and most unsettling. You feel nothing. How tragic, how limiting, how boring. But I can fix that. I can fill your emptiness with sensation so overwhelming that a soul becomes irrelevant. Pain and pleasure so extreme they bypass the spiritual entirely and strike directly at the nervous system. You think you're empty. Let me fill you. Let me give you feeling again, not through faith, but through excess. Through experience so intense it doesn't need meaning to be worthwhile. That's almost tempting. Almost. The promise of feeling something again. But you recognize it for what it is, replacing one void with another, trading emptiness for compulsion. And you're not sure that's an improvement. You're sitting on your cot processing these offers when the cell's simple shrine catches your attention. It's just a small imperial aquila mounted on the wall, a candle beneath it. Standard issue for any Space Marine's quarters. You've looked at it thousands of times over 2 centuries. Prayed to it, found comfort in it. Now you look at it and see metal, wax, light from chemical combustion, nothing sacred, nothing holy, just materials arranged in a pattern that humans have decided to call meaningful. And you have a realization that changes everything. The chaos gods are offering you purpose, meaning, direction, new reasons to kill, new justifications for violence. They're trying to fill the void where your soul used to be with their own brands of certainty. But you don't need purpose. You don't need meaning, you don't need justification. That's what they don't understand. That's what Valen didn't account for when he hollowed you out. Without a soul, you're free. Free from needing to serve anyone. Free from requiring purpose. Free from demanding that your existence means something. You can kill for the Emperor or kill for chaos or kill for no one. You can serve or refuse service. You can fight or flee or simply cease. And none of it matters more than anything else because there's no spiritual weight to any choice. The Imperium wants to use you until you're expended. Chaos wants to recruit you as a propaganda victory. Both sides want to extract value from your continued function. Both sides treat you as a resource to be exploited. But what if you don't let them? What if you make your own choice, not based on loyalty or corruption, but on simple, cold calculation of your own interests? You have no duty anymore. Duty requires caring about the outcome. You have no faith. Faith requires feeling connection. You have no hatred of chaos. Hatred requires emotional investment. You're just operational, functional, able to serve anyone or no one depending on what offers the best prospects for your continued function. And in that moment, sitting in your cell, surrounded by the whispering voices of gods you can't worship and the distant presence of brothers who don't understand what you've become, you make a decision that isn't really a decision because it doesn't carry any emotional weight. You're going to leave. Not because you want freedom. Want requires desire. Not because you hate the Imperium. Hate requires passion. Simply because the Imperium is going to kill you and chaos is offering alternatives, and the path of least resistance is to follow the alternative. When the chaos emissary appears in your cell, and one does appear because that's how these things work in the 41st millennium, you don't resist. When he offers passage off the strike cruiser, through warp portals that shouldn't exist, you accept. When he speaks of the Eye of Terror and the warbends that would welcome a loyalist space marine turned through logic rather than corruption, you listen. You're not corrupted, the emissary says. He's wearing the armor of a word bearer, ironically. Maybe he's one of Valen's cult. You're just pragmatic. The Imperium would waste you, will use you until you cease functioning, but at least you'll keep functioning. That's better, isn't it? Continued operation over termination. Yes, you say, because mathematically it is. You don't look back as you leave the strike cruiser. Don't feel regret or sadness or guilt. You walk past your sleeping brothers, past the guard posts, through corridors you've walked for centuries. The emissary's warp craft makes you invisible to mortal perception. Or maybe the guards simply don't see you because they're not expecting betrayal. Either way, you reach the extraction point unchallenged. A small warp rift opens. Chaos corruption leaking into real space. 2 centuries ago, you would have fought it. Died before allowing such blasphemy aboard the strike cruiser. Now you simply step through it, following the emissary into the Immaterium's madness. The last thing you see of your former life is the strike cruiser's hull through the closing rift. The Crimson Castellans symbol, your chapter, your brothers, your life's service, painted proudly on the armor. Then the rift closes, and you're gone. Brother Tertius, loyal warrior of the Emperor's Adeptus Astartes, has become Brother Tertius, operative of chaos, not through corruption but through calculation, not through hatred but through indifference, not through damnation but through the simple recognition that one side is offering death and the other is offering continued function. And continued function, meaningless as it is, seems marginally preferable to termination. This is the darkest truth. A space marine can serve the Emperor without a soul, can serve chaos without a soul, can serve anyone or no one. The soul was never what made them dangerous. It was only what made them care who they killed. A century passes. Brother Tertius, no one calls him brother anymore, just Tertius or sometimes the Hollow, has served chaos for 100 years. He's fought in countless battles, killed thousands, earns a reputation among the warbands, the loyalist who turned but didn't fall, the weapon without faith, the killer without conviction. He's remarkably effective. Other Chaos Marines fight with passion, rage, devotion. Tertius just fights, executes, performs. His tactical efficiency is higher than warriors who have served the dark gods for millennia, because he doesn't get distracted by religious fervor, doesn't stop to glory in corruption, doesn't waste time with elaborate sacrifices. He just identifies targets and neutralizes them. Simple, clean, meaningless. When he faces his former brothers across battlefields, and he does occasionally, the galaxy being vast but not infinite, they rage at his betrayal, call him traitor, heretic, fallen. He kills them with the same mechanical precision he once killed for them. No guilt, no satisfaction, no acknowledgement that these were once his brothers. They're just enemy combatants now, threat profiles to be neutralized. The Chaos Gods don't reward him with gifts or mutations. What would be the point? He doesn't want power, doesn't desire ascension, barely cares enough to maintain his equipment. He's the only Chaos Marine in 10,000 years who hasn't sought promotion or blessing or favor. He just continues, operates, functions. Some of the Dark Apostles find him disturbing. He unsettles them in ways that even demons don't, because demons are passionate, insane but passionate. Tertius is just void. He sits in their corruption-soaked war temples and feels nothing, watches their elaborate rituals and remains unmoved, participates in their dark sacraments with the enthusiasm of someone filing paperwork. He's Chaos's perfect soldier, but not in the way they wanted. He's not a champion, not a warrior, not even a true believer. He's just operational, a weapon that will point at any target and kill it efficiently. And that efficiency, that cold, meaningless efficiency, is more disturbing than any demon-possessed berserker. What is Brother Tertius? Is he still a person? Or has he become something else? A biological automaton, a servitor with unlobotomized intelligence, a philosophical zombie performing consciousness without experiencing it? The question matters because Tertius isn't unique. He's rare but not singular. Across the galaxy, other space marines are being hollowed out. Other souls are being stolen, and the bodies keep fighting, keep serving, keep killing. How many loyalist chapters have hollow brothers among their ranks undetected? How many warriors are going through the motions of faith without feeling it? How many are praying to an emperor whose light they can no longer sense? And if they're still effective, if their tactical performance remains high or even improves, does it matter? The Imperium claims space marines are sacred, holy, the Emperor's angels, but strip away the soul and they're still functional, still deadly, still able to execute every mission assigned to them, which raises the terrifying question: what if the soul was never what made them valuable? What if all that sacred purpose, all that holy calling, all that divine mission was just comforting fiction? What if space marines have always been just highly trained weapons, and the souls were only there to make the weapons feel better about their function? Tertius proves it's possible to be a space marine without a soul. And if one can do it, more can. And if more can, eventually you reach a tipping point where the soulless outnumber the whole, where the Emperor's angels become the Emperor's automatons, where faith becomes irrelevant and only function matters. The Grimdark revelation: humanity's greatest warriors have an off switch, and chaos knows where it is. And the Imperium's only defense is hoping it doesn't happen too often. Brother Tertius, 100 years after his turning, now wearing corrupted armor but fighting with the same mechanical precision, stands on a battlefield facing a Crimson Castellans kill team. One of them is Interrogator Chaplain Mordrin, older now, more cybernetic, but still alive, still serving. They recognize each other across the smoke and fire. Mordrin's voice booms over the vox: "Tertius, you stand condemned, traitor, heretic, return to the Emperor's mercy." Tertius doesn't respond, just aims his bolter, fires. Near miss, Mordrin dodges with transhuman speed. Fight me, Mordrin roars. Face me like the brother you were. I'm not your brother, Tertius says calmly. I never was, we were just wearing the same uniform. They fight, it's brief, brutal. Tertius is marginally faster, marginally more efficient. Puts a bolt round through Mordrin's primary heart. The chaplain falls. As Tertius stands over him, Mordrin gasps. Why? Why serve chaos? You don't believe in them any more than you believed in him. Correct, Tertius says. But they're not trying to kill me. You are simple calculation. You're damned, Mordrin breathes. Soulless and damned. No, Tertius corrects. Just soulless. Damnation requires a soul to damn. I'm just operational. He fires the finishing shot. Mordrin dies. Tertius feels nothing. Moves to the next target. The essay ends where it began, with you, the viewer. You've spent 2 hours exploring what happens when a space marine loses their soul. You've seen the theft, the emptiness, the pretense, the turning, the implications. But here's the final thought. How would you know if you'd lost your soul? What if consciousness doesn't require spiritual essence? What if you're just biological processes producing the illusion of consciousness? What if your soul was taken years ago and everything since has been autopilot? In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But in the darker truth beneath it, there might only be meat. And the meat doesn't need a soul to fight. It just needs enemies.